Okay, so this is episode 2, I guess is we're calling it, of What the Wednesdays, as I think we're slowly defining it as, coined by the Game Hopper himself.
Hey,
As we continue to just discuss streamer news, tech ideas, different things going around the world, and have a good time while we're doing it, right?
all right, topic. This week, what we want to talk about and dive into is streamer burnout, which Q can attest to. The streamer group he is in that I left. There's been a lot of people dropping like flies lately, so I'll let you kind of cue it off.
So yeah, there's a point in time, or as it's interesting, like as how do you want to word this, as a content creator or a streamer in general, right? If your main focus is on streaming, which I would say we're probably going to say that 75 to 80% of the platform is, right? I don't have any detailed numbers, but if I were to take a guess and take a shot in the dark, I would say 75 to 80% of the platform is solely dedicated to just streaming. Like that's what they focus on. They don't focus on, the whole concept, build a brand, diversify, network, etc. Right? They don't focus on treating it like a business and growing a business. They just think, I'm going to log on and stream.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
people that are going to come watch me, and I'm going to be successful. They just think it's that easy.
Right. So there's a lot of individuals that when you go through that, right, you start with that idea, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is going to happen, right? And if you happen to get in a new game, or you happen to get in you just happen to network with one person that happens to be in the right space or something, and you get a huge boost, right? You get a huge boost for some reason, right? And I'm not talking about huge, like hundreds of viewers. I'm talking about like you go from 1 to 15, right? You go from 1 to 15, 1 to 25 maybe, right? You're in a good game, you're in a good space, you're in a good area, and then all of a sudden you get like a huge amount of subscribers or donations or something like that, and you end up in this mindset that like I'm growing, right? I'm growing. And then the next month it just, right? It just kind of, because it's like a thing where you've had, yes, you had an amount of growth, you had an amount of financial revenue come through your content, but you turned around, but all of that came, if you diversify or you think about it, like all of that came from like 3 to 4 people, right? So your growth was still not much, right? Your growth came from one location, and again, it happens, but I would say 90% of the time, 3 to 4 people aren't going to carry your channel every month, right? One month, somebody gets a bonus and they're feeling happy. Somebody gets, tax returns. Somebody gets, it's just having a good month and they feel like being nice, right? And it happens, right? And not that I'm saying, I don't think those people should do that, but I mean, like that's a good way. I mean, I've done it in the past to support other content creators, right? Where you're like, oh, I've had a really good month. I've got a surplus in my budget. I'm going to go out and I'm going to donate some subscriptions, or I'm going to donate to their channel or something like that to help them because I think they deserve it, right? And a lot of viewers do that. But you go through that first month, and then you go through that second month and you don't see anything. And then you go through that third month and you don't see anything. And then those viewers, not that they go away, but they're not as often, they're not as frequent, right? The growth just kind of seems to stagnate. And it's like once you hit that stagnate phase and you don't see any more growth, I see, I wouldn't even call it a plateau, right? Because you haven't even crested the hill, right? Like you're still in a climbing phase, right? It's not even like you got up there and you're like, this is the greatest you're going to be, right? It's what like,
is those streamers, when they hit that really good month, they then begin to think that that's their new normal. Like they expect like that's what it's going to be from now on. But like you're saying, that's sometimes you just get a surge because, right scenarios, or like you said, it's a good month where some people are making a lot of money, they get a lot of free time, so they're on here watching. But you can never expect people to keep coming back. You always got to be, it can be the same viewer you've had in your channel for 6 months, but you still got to be coming online, streaming, and doing what you can to, bring in new people and keep that same. You can't get complacent.
In that same avenue, right? We're coming, hopefully, I think, to the close of COVID, right? To the close of, or we're coming through the trailing ends of the quarantine crisis and all that kind of stuff. The market's starting to kind of turn back around, et cetera, is starting to happen. the jobs are starting to come back, right? Things like that. I think that we will see a huge amount of burnout within the next 3 months. Like, you're going to have all those people that came from quarantine, right? Two things are going to happen. All the people came from quarantine, and they're going to either get jobs again, and they're going to realize that they can't sustain both, right? They can't do their professional work, and they can't stream as regularly as they used to. Or you're going to see that their viewers who were watching them before are now going back to work, right? So you're going to have a reduction in viewer count from what you saw before, and you're going to drop off again, right? I think we're going to see a huge amount of burnout in the next 2 to 3 months. And, Twitch has been a huge influx. They've been talking about huge amounts of numbers and everything going up. Like, we looked at the year-over-year.
Nuts.
The year-over-year new channels was just absolutely off the charts. Like, it was like so much growth. It was ridiculous. But, again, we talked about COVID being a part of that metric, right? And I think we're finally going to see that growth from COVID kind of taper off, and then it'll start to go in a big lull, and people, I guarantee, no, I shouldn't guarantee, but I would venture to wager that in another 3 months there's going to be a whole bunch of discussion about how bad Twitch is doing performance-wise because of what they did in Q1 and Q2, blah blah blah. Right? There's going to be inside of the streamer networks, right? There's going to be this big discussion about how the poor performing Twitch is doing because COVID is starting to go away, right? And there's not as much growth, there's not as many viewers, there's not as many channels, blah blah blah, and there's going to be this kind of this mentality of, right, like, what's going on? Twitch is crashing, but it's going to happen. I say Twitch because we're streaming here today, but I think it's going to happen on Twitch, Mixer, right?
Well, yeah, there'll be some outlets that want to talk about the dip, but I mean, all of us who are here know that obviously the spike that you get, the big rise from everybody being stuck at home and out of jobs and stuff like that, it's not going to stay there forever. We're going to get back to whatever we want to consider normalcy as time goes on here, and it's going to drop. But what I think I'm curious to see most about is those of us that stay consistent and push through whatever lull is coming, if we'll see a rise afterwards when you see all these channels that were committing to a lot of time online or doing things or had a lot of free time now, and now they don't need more. So you're going to see the live channels drop if the rest of us see any type of added viewership afterward.
I would say that I would think that that could happen. I would like to see that happen personally, right? I mean, like, everybody wants to see that happen, sure, but you're gonna have an influx of viewers who are used to watching smaller channels, right? You're gonna have an influx of viewers who are used to watching people that stream to 20 to 30 individuals, maybe or less.
Yeah.
Right. And I think those viewers right there are looking for a more intimate connection to their streamer, right? They're looking for a more direct response. They want to feel, and I'm just saying, those viewers, they want to feel like every time they go and chat, you remember the last time they were there.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a nice thing to be able to provide as a small streamer. I know we don't like using that term, but
exactly. That's exactly right. Like, you want to say that these individuals that are coming into your chat, right? Like, they want to connect. They want to know that you know them, right? They're not going to go, the reason people aren't going to watch Lupo play Minecraft Dungeons or, Tim play World of Warcraft or whatever else. The reason those individuals don't go there is not because the content isn't good, right? It's because they want to connect with somebody. And in those channels, it's really hard to connect. It's not that you can't, but it's really hard to connect directly to those people. That's kind of where I would put the focus at, right? Like, to say, and we need to continue to show, like, I'm focusing me and you, right? Like, me and you, as we continue to go through these growth patterns or try to grow our own channels, we as smaller streamers or, need to have the ability to continue to connect with individuals, right? And continue to show that that's what we're here for. Right. And that needs to be your motive and your drive for now.
Yeah. And it's obviously, like I said, that's the gift we kind of have being the smaller streamers with, 5 to 15 in chat. It's very easy to recognize the names when they come through, like you said, recall the last time and they were in there, continue a conversation you may have had from the day before, follow up from something that somebody might have said to you, last week, like whatever it may be. And those kind of connections, I feel like hopefully they go a long way. Like I try to go out of my way to remember everybody that comes into my chat and everything they say to me. Again, I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be, but I appreciate having a small community growing steadily, whatever it may be. But it's nice. It's nice to have those connections. Even as a streamer, it's good to have people come back and look forward to coming and chatting with you while we're doing whatever nonsense we're up to.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that a lot of viewers don't get either. Maybe if you're like as a streamer, content creator, whatever, however you want to define yourself, right? When you're streaming, right? If you're streaming to less than 5 people, every chat message counts, right? And not to the not to the viewer. It counts to the streamer, right? I mean, it is like every time something is written in chat, it's like you're watching, you're waiting, right? Because you want to have the ability to make that response. You want to have the ability to make that connection to continue to understand what your chat is doing. Like there have been times, times in the past where I've sat there and just, you sit there with one viewer, which happens to be your preview window, right? You're sitting there with one viewer watching yourself stream.
I'm always shocked when I see the people with 0. Like, you're doing something wrong.
So yeah. Well, I would say, yeah. Anyway, we'll get on that in a second. When you're sitting there with one viewer and you're starting out, right? Like, it's almost like you're talking and you're communicating and you're telling yourself like you've done all the work, right? You've designed a decent you've designed a decent starting overlay. Right, you've made sure that you've got your chat window visible to yourself, so you're paying attention for when people come. You're making sure that you're communicating about what's going on in the game. You're making sure your stream title is kind of clickbaity. You're making sure, you're trying to make sure that you've done all the steps to draw people to you. Yeah. Right, but then at the same time, you're like, where is everybody? Like, and you're self-conscious about it. Like you're talking, you're doing everything, but you're like, when is that person going to show up? And when they do, it feels amazing, right? And you get somebody that sits there for an hour, right? Just one person in chat for an hour talking to you is absolutely freaking amazing. Like that first person, that I don't want to say the first person, right? But I'm just saying like that one individual that decides to hang out with you when nobody else is there. Right. And that they are there for you. At that point, they're there for you. Right. Even if they're trolling you, they're there for you. Right. Like, I mean,
I've had a great evening one time with like 4 trolls in my channel. I'm not going to lie. I think I turned them too. Like they kind of left like in good spirits.
I've had a few of those. I've had a few come in and they're like, oh, I just came in to troll you, but this is actually a pretty chill experience. I'm like, okay, yes, we won. We've won.
We've turned. Like
yes. So I definitely that right. I think we kind of agree on that kind of idea. And I think that you're right that going forward, like we said, going forward we should see growth. The interesting thing will be understanding how to capitalize on that growth or how to draw attention to those viewers that are losing their main streamers, right? I went through a lull. Honestly, I went through a lull. I used to watch, I don't know if you remember, Real Beast Nation. No, he's not streaming anymore, right? Nate was streaming regularly, and I was modding for him, and I was watching his streams every day, and I was taking care of stuff for him, and I was helping him out a lot. And it took a lot of, not that it took a lot of time, but I mean, it did take a lot of time, but I mean, I was enjoying being a part of his community, being part of his chat when I wasn't streaming, right? And I had the opportunity to do that, right? And it worked out really, really well. When he stopped streaming, I kind of went, where do I fill this 3-hour time slot for, 3 days a week? What do I do, right? Like, who do I look to find? Where do I go? And then, I jumped around to a lot of streamers, and it was really hard to rebuild that. And that's kind of where those individuals right there, those people that have been for the past 3 months have now have now connected to Twitch, right? They've maybe had 3 or 4 regular streamers that they've watched. If 2 of them are no longer streaming, right? How do you fill their space? Like, how do you get in there? How do you get them to come into your bubble and stay, right? And it's going to be very, very interesting trying to engage those viewers and trying to understand how to draw their attention to you, because that's one thing that
always the biggest thing with Twitch is being discovered. Like, we always know this platform is the absolute worst as far as discoverability. So it's, yes, obviously still being consistent, streaming to whatever schedule we've committed to, whatever it may be. That's step one in being here for those, we'll call them lost viewers in a sense. They're out there, they're aimlessly wandering, looking for their next connection.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with you that trying to figure out, like lighting the pathway. How do we light the pathway to come watch me? I have I have a great small community, and we're always looking for more. But the burnout for people, which we've already started to see, what do you attest a lot of that to? Overcommitting, not putting regular schedules, not balancing life. It's a lot of stuff. Q, did you have any type of online community before you started streaming? In any sense, anywhere?
Not personally. Not personally. And that was what was interesting. So before I started streaming, I did the racing thing, right? So I actually spent 3 years building a brand for the racing community. And basically everything I focused on was building social media profiles, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, right? I built this social media empire, right? We went from like 30 likes on Facebook to like 1,800, right? Our Twitter went up, our Instagram went way up, right? And it was just this slow progression of growth, but it was all focused on that brand.
Yeah.
So when I left the racing scene, right, and I handed off the keys and I was like, here you go, guys. And then I stepped into my own and I was like, right, like my profile is dead, right? Like my Instagram, I had an Instagram account just so I could create a branded account for the racing organization, right? Like I had like one photo on my Instagram. I had like,
I love it.
I've had my Twitter. I've had my Twitter since 2014. Right? My Twitter's huh?
I'm not sure how long I've had mine for.
Oh. So I had my Twitter since 2014. I didn't start using Twitter until like 2018.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Literally,
before I started using it.
Literally, my Twitter was entirely based around sharing my Facebook posts. Like, that's all it did. It was just set to automatically share every Facebook post I posted. And that was my entire Twitter feed for like 5 years, right? That was it. Like, that's all it did.
But, no, yeah, even like all my branded GameHopper social networking channels, apps, whatever you want to call them, I made all that stuff, I think 7 years ago, 2013, 2014. And I didn't first stream on this Twitch account, though, till I think the middle of last year. But I had it. I had it because it was an idea I wanted to do. But then, life. I got caught up with life. Because, again, it's like what a lot of people are doing now as far as getting the burnout. I just never really committed to anything before. But no, let's get to the burnout a little bit. Because I feel like we're not really talking about it, I think what I see, which is a common mistake for a lot of streamers. What did I just open up? I don't need the elements of this channel page. People, number one, I've been guilty of this early on. My first 4 or 5 months streaming, it was, hey, it's going to be great exposure for me if every time I'm online playing a game, I just turn on my stream. And you think it would be a good idea, but it's really not. Like, especially if you're still not an affiliate yet, the more you're streaming to 1 or 2 people, the longer that's going to take you. I first noticed my biggest change in growth was when I finally started to set a specific schedule and stick to it consistently. Because then it gives somebody, whoever it may be, the first time they come by, they enjoy the content, they know, hey, this is what he's doing this same day, this same time every week. I don't know if you can attest to that if you've noticed any difference from
So
set schedule or not set schedule or whatever it may be.
So I've always, and I can't really attest to that personally because I've always had a set schedule just because of the way, my dynamic works with the kids and Jamie and, the wife and all that kind of stuff, right? The way that dynamic worked, it was always like, I started streaming and then I was like, okay, I had to go to Jamie and I was like, what do I get? Right? Like, I mean, that was really the way it went. It was like, hey, I want to try this Friday, right? Can I stream this Friday? Like, it was literally asking for time until we got, to a point to where we're like, okay, we have Cub Scouts on this day, we have soccer on this day, we have dance on this day, we have, et cetera on this day. So I get, out of 7, I get 3, right? So that was like, okay, there we go. Those are my 3. Like, that's what you get, right?
Yeah.
And do I think if I were to say, do I think that my current schedule is the best that I could have for growth? No, I don't. Yeah. Right? I think there are better ways that I could either spread my schedule or, I think personally 3 days straight, like the way I have mine now, I have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think 3 days straight is great for, like you'll get a retention for those 3 days. You'll have somebody show up for 3 days.
Yeah.
But then you don't stream for 4 days. And then that individual forgets you, right? By the next 4 days, the individual forgets you unless you made like a really, really substantial impression on that individual.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so that's a really interesting thing about schedule. I really think you should do something like, personally, I think 3 days is a great start, right? Especially like you said, for non-affiliates. I think 3 days is a great start. Like you just said, don't stream to 0, right? I'm not saying don't stream to 0, but right, like don't overextend your streams. You should be streaming 3 days a week, 4 hours at a time. Don't overexert yourself, because the longer you stream, right? Like you just said, the more hours you have, the harder it is to bump an average, right? Over 30 days. So if you're just pumping out a ton of hours at one viewer, if you're pumping out hundreds of hours at one viewer, doesn't matter. You could spend literally an entire month at 5 viewers and it still doesn't bring you to 3, right? Like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it takes a long time to overweigh that balance. I know it's just on like a 30-day rolling calendar, but it's still a lot. For people trying to get there. The scheduling thing is nice. I know it's very different. Yes, I'm a single guy living. I'm not living by myself necessarily. I have my parents stay with me because they're just dealing with some health issues and stuff. But having a family and kids definitely makes it different. So you are definitely more of a voice of reason for those who try to commit to these crazy schedules with a wife, with a committed girlfriend, with children, whatever it may be, and then I've seen a lot of streamers from groups that we've been in the past, it's on their Twitter, oh, got to cancel the stream tonight, something came up. Oh, got to cancel the stream tonight, got to push it back an hour. And in my opinion, I'm taking this from something I read, we kind of have to treat our channel like a big production, look at it like a Game of Thrones, where Game of Thrones, it aired Sundays, 10 p.m., 9 p.m.?
I have no idea. I never watched it.
So people look forward to watching that show at that time on that day. So if you have someone coming out, and all of a sudden Game of Thrones is like, oh, last second, we're not gonna be on this Sunday. Sorry guys, we'll see you next week. So many people would be pissed. You can't do that to your community. And that person's gonna go look and find a new show, So if you commit to something, you have to be able to live up to it to create stable growth and to create a community that wants to be there, is going to be there. You have to show up more than they do,
You're totally right. You're totally right. And another thing I have to get off my chest about what you were just kind of talking about is there are situations, right? There's no way you can say there's not a situation where you have to cancel, right? Like things do come up, right? And it's really, but it's like when it's every week, or when you get that you're waiting for somebody to go live, you go check their Twitter, and an hour ago they were like, hey guys, I'm just not feeling it tonight.
Yeah.
That one there, the I'm just not feeling it tonight is like, that one there is just like I'm about to hit unfollow, right? Because
it's like, you're not worth it for me to come online for. Like,
yeah, I mean, like you're with that mindset. I mean, and get it. I totally understand. There are some people that deal with anxiety, depression, social issues, right? Things like that. I totally get that. But if that's the case, maybe streaming isn't necessarily your forte, right? Maybe podcasting, maybe something that's not as directly interactive or something like that. But you need to be able to,
on your own time,
right? You need to be able to dive in and focus with your community and be a part of your community on time every week. You are a production. You are a show. You know, it's just like it's just like YouTube, the big YouTubers. What happens? Every week they post a video on the same days usually. I mean, like there are some out there that just kind of sporadically do it still, but majority of them have a set schedule when videos release on certain topics, right? You know, and that's what you got to do, right? You got to make sure that your people, even looking for even YouTube where it's canned content, people are still looking for that video to drop on that day.
Yeah. That was my problem when I first tried to start my channel for YouTube. Was I way overcommitted on trying to post too many videos weekly. And what happened was the quality of the content was suffering because I was rushing to try to get stuff out because I said I would do it on this many days a week, you know?
Yeah.
Which now I haven't uploaded anything in a long time. And I want to get back to it, but I don't want to commit to it until I feel like I'm in a place to do things consistently at the quality I want them to be.
Right. So I have seen that again, just like your stream, just like your Twitter account, right? Those types of situations, the quality matters, right? You could post one video a month, and as long as it's a good quality, relevant video, right, it makes sense and it will still stick, and people will search for that video all month long, and they'll continue to find that video, right, all month long. I have had on my YouTube channel, I've had a lot of growth. Me and you have talked about YouTube growth recently, and I've had a lot of growth on my YouTube channel in the past, month, and
awesome.
the biggest, it's 3 videos, like 3 of my videos, and 2 of them are really old, but during this COVID pandemic, they've gotten a lot of traction because they're really focused on entry-level streaming.
Yep.
Right?
That's what's been
they're very, very basic, very, very entry-level videos that I posted back in 2019. Right, that have been sitting out there, had no traction, and all of a sudden, in the past 3 months, they've gotten thousands of views, and I'm like, what happened? Yeah. And I go to the SEO and it tells me what people are searching for, and there it is, right? It's almost exactly what my title is, right? It sat there forever with nothing, and now all of a sudden people are searching for that title, and I'm like, well, I did something. Yep. So you don't necessarily have to have the best video every week. You just have to have something consistent to get recommended. But once you're recommended, then you're in because people will search and people will continue to come back for more.
True. While we're on the topic of YouTube, I had someone bring up a question. Feelings towards just a stream, basically a YouTube channel that becomes a stream archive, where people are just posting clips and highlights from the streams they did nights prior and things like that.
So personally, so I've heard several different discussions on it. And there are some, like, personally, Devin Nash, right? We both know who Devin Nash is. We've had some discussions about him. We recognize that he's a recognized individual in the community, right? In the streaming community, in the gaming community, he's a well-known name. He's been around for a long time. His YouTube channel is strictly that. I mean, his YouTube channel is literally reposts of all of his streams cut down, where he cuts out dead space, cuts out gaming. It's his just chatting sessions, right? That's all it is. I don't like it for somebody who's trying to grow as a content creator.
Agreed. 100% on that one.
Right? If you're already established, right? I'm thinking Asmongold, Tim, right? All these other people who are already established.
Disrespect, Ninja, all those
right.
guys.
These individuals who are doing it, they're posting their clips on YouTube, all that kind of stuff, because people are searching for their names, right?
Yeah.
It's not that they're searching for that video. They're searching for their names, and they're waiting for the laughable moments that occur in their streams, right? nobody's searching for my name on YouTube, right? Like nobody's searching for your name, right, on YouTube. Like they come across it. Not yet. They come across it because they're looking for something else, right? Yeah. They're trying to find, something else that you're doing that's unique. Yeah. So I don't think just necessarily now, if you did a stream that was entirely based around teaching coding, right? And you did a whole class on coding or drawing or, web development or something like that. Like you had a talent that you were exploiting on streaming and you wanted to record that and repost that to YouTube. That's totally fine. Right?
Yeah, that's definitely a better place for it. And that's growing or not. I think I agree with you that you can post that because it's a good source of information that people should have access to, not just watching you live. Yeah, no, and I think too, it's very different too, because if you look at these big streamers who are reposting stream content from days prior, night prior, whatever it may be, they have editors who are cutting it up. They're putting these things together beautifully, well edited, great music, transitions are perfect. They're nice, like 10 to 15 minute, not too long, and that's the right way to do it. Again, they're doing it because they're just trying to. Yes, it's a money thing. They're trying to bleed as much revenue as they can out of their content, which at that level, there's no reason not to. Like, again, we're all trying to make money at the end of the day here. We don't want to sit here and just do this for nothing, because, yes, it's satisfying making the connections, but it's nice to be able to continue to do so, up the quality, and to do that, fortunately, the world, you need money. But I like that, because, again, like a lot of these streamers, I don't really watch Shroud since he went over to Mixer. Nothing against him. And a lot of times I'm working on my own stuff or I'm doing my own streams. So I like when I can sit down for 10 minutes and throw on a video of his highlights from the night before playing a game I might enjoy. It still kind of lets me feel connected in a sense to that big streamer without having to sit there for 6 hours watching a stream. But they do it the right way, I feel.
Yeah. There's a big difference. There's a big difference between basically downloading your entire stream and reposting it, right?
Just putting up in a 3-hour video, absolutely uncut. Like, basically you're just downloading your VOD and posting it to YouTube, which I know you can just export it straight there. There's some people who just do that, That's not the right way to go about it.
There's and I would be interested to see what the numbers of like the view retention on videos for YouTube. Yeah. The longer you make your video, the more dead time you have, and the less content that the individual that's coming to listen to is interested in, right? I do it. Like I go to somebody's video and I'm looking for either a microphone review or I'm looking for a camera review or I'm looking for something like that. I don't care about the unboxing. Scroll past that, right? Like I don't care what comes in the box. I really don't. Go, scroll past it, right? And then we go, and then they're like, oh, well, this is how you set it up. I don't care about that, right? Like, and I go through and I watch, out of a 20-minute video, I watch maybe 3 minutes of it, right? Because I just want to know what it looks like after you've hooked it up. That's all I want to know. What's it look like? Okay, thank you. Next video, right? I don't like it. Next one, right? And you move on, right? There's actually microphone videos are the one thing that I listen to almost all of them, but I have a little bias. I have a little bias in microphone videos, so.
I wonder why.
So, but like anything else, like if it's cameras, photography, questions, anything like that, I look for the thing that relates to me, watch that little segment, go on, and I'm done, right? Like I don't continue to retain it.
Videos you watch.
I don't care, right? And so when you post, the chances of you getting anybody to watch a 4-hour video on YouTube is zero, right? Like
it's unreal. Yeah, no.
Like it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, right? I mean, 2, nobody wants to sit through all the dead time. Like there's a lot of content, right? Even for us, like there's a lot of laughable moments, but there's a lot of dead time, right? Where you're literally just clicking and we're just kind of chit chatting, but it's not anything spectacular. Nobody cares, right? Nobody cares. Everybody wants the laughable moments, like me jumping off a bridge and floating away, right? Like that's laughable.
I hate when I'll see videos that like they still have like the stream countdown in the beginning of their YouTube video. Like that's just lazy on your part to not even just cut that. Like, I'm not going to sit here. This is not a live video. Like, it's recorded. Why am I watching a countdown to when the video actually starts?
Yeah. Yeah. Another one that's really interesting is if the video is very, very heavily related to reacting to chat or communicating with chat, and chat is not visible.
Yep.
It's very, very hard for me to watch that.
Lost. Yeah.
Because it's a one-sided conversation. Like, he's answering questions or talking about things, and you don't know what the original question was. And sometimes you can pick up on it, but a lot of times it's just lost information. And that is a reason. That's actually a reason that I used to have chat on my gameplay window.
Yeah.
Because if I ever cut a VOD or cut a clip and I was responding to something or saying to something, but then I got to the point to where I was like, when I'm playing games, it's typically not driven that way. It's
True.
typically much slower. It's typically, so I was like, I don't need it, but on my just chatting screens, on this podcast screen, etc. Right. I have the chat visible for those reasons.
No, and I think too, going along with that a little bit, it's probably why, again, the big streamers, it's easier for them to cut stuff to YouTube because they're not having that close personal conversation with chat. Usually they're speaking very vaguely, very openly to chat as like an individual. They're not picking out specific people because there's too many. They're streaming to 5, 10, 15, 20,000 people. No one's having a conversation with them. Chat is just basically who that big streamer is talking to when they're saying anything.
Yeah, so I mean,
very easy to pick up the context, whatever it may be.
That's a very interesting thing to kind of go off of too. Is like to say at what point does chat become its own entity instead of a group of individuals? Chat becomes a conglomerate entity.
Exactly. Yeah, it's you and chat as two proverbial individuals in the conversation.
And I know it has to be done. But it drives me nuts when they're like, hey chat, and I'm like, you're not talking to anybody. Like, I know you haven't read anything. literally the only connection, and I love them. I do. Most of them I love, and I think, again, they're amazing content creators. But 99% of the way they communicate with chat is reading donos and subs.
Yep.
I mean, that's 90% of the way they communicate with their. That's 99% of the way they communicate with their community, right? Their community isn't a community; it's a community amongst itself.
Oh yeah, they kind of chat with each other, and again too, it's because it's easier to follow that event feed than it is to follow the chat that's absolutely scrolling.
Oh, it's insane.
At speed. Even on slow mode, it's just still way too much.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah. I mean, like, there's got to be something. Like, I'm dreading. Not that I'm dreading the day. But, if it ever comes to that point, right, like, it just becomes a whole nother dynamic of, like, how do you do this? Like, what am I doing right now? Like, how do I know what to look at? Like, how do I know what's important? Are your mods pulling things out and saying, hey, answer this. Hey, this one's important. Like, and then at that point, are the mods, like, how do the mods do it, right? Like, how do the mods, it's a whole nother ball game that.
It is. I can't imagine having 100 plus in your chat. How do you follow? What are you looking at? Like you said, it's a visual overload. 100
plus unique chatters at any given time. Yeah, that would be interesting.
You're just picking apart things here and there and hoping. Which again, it's at that point too, it's retention as far as, you catch that 1 out of 4 messages where somebody's asking a question, you answer them, that person's probably going to stick around. The other 3, they may go find somebody else.
Yeah.
I wonder in the viewer's mind, at what number in chat do they like forgive not getting any reaction back from a comment they may say? There's 5 people and I say like, hey, how you doing? And the streamer doesn't respond to me for 10 minutes. I'm out of there before the 10 minutes goes up, obviously. But like, if there's 500, I don't necessarily expect. I'm trying to think for me. I wouldn't expect if I said like, hey, how you doing today, to get a response back. If I did, I'm like, awesome, this guy's on top of it. But
I would say, I mean, my number would probably be pretty low. I would say probably around 50. Yeah. Even 50 would be tough. Like, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I've had,
especially active chatters.
Yeah, I think my peak active chatters has been 49. Actually, I think I had 49 one time, and I remember being like, it's very, very interesting. And I don't like that, and and they might have it. Like, I know a lot have subscriber only chat, which I just, even at the big level, I think taking away that connection even at the big level, I think taking away that connection is tough, right?
Ashley says, I don't like the idea of expecting anything at all. Streamers are already giving me content. Why do they owe me anything more? It's an interesting view. I agree. There's no owed. Like, obviously, to me it's just a courteous part of the relationship we're trying to create with a small community. Like if somebody came into chat right now, like even when we're chatting and having our conversation, I'm still trying to type if someone new comes in and says hello, because I don't want to feel like I'm ignoring someone. You said, at our level, every single person that comes into chat is an important person. Every single one matters, and you don't want to let someone slip through. And again, if that's the case, that's completely up to them. I'm not trying to force anybody here against their will, but I wouldn't say it's like an owed thing. There are probably some viewers who feel that way, like they came in, or especially if they sub, they want whatever, they want their recognition, or the donation people, they want the recognition, which is why the big streamers probably make sure to call those out more than anything else.
Yeah. So Nathan says, I'm generally opposed to sub only anything. And I am as well. I mean, there's a certain level and a certain point that I think sub only chat could turn into something like if you were doing a certain type of event, or you were doing a specialized stream, or you were doing, but it has to have a specific scenario. I know, like, again, I only watch a few larger streamers, right? Like it's my level or it's high level, right? Like I watch mainly watch Lupo, Tim, and then everybody else I watch is at our level. Like I watch friends of mine that I've met or people that I network with. Like I only watch two big streamers realistically. So I know for 90% of the time, or I need to stop using percentages that I don't know are real. I know a lot of times
all percentages thrown out this evening are absolutely made up. There's nothing to
there's no way to validate anything I say when it has a percent sign behind it. I was gonna say a decimal value, but that's really not the right word. Anyway, so I know like Dr. Lupo doesn't have sub only mode, but I have gone into a few streams where sub only mode has been enabled, right? But majority of the time that I go in there, it's not, right? So I don't know what drives that change. If it's a specific viewer count, if it's a specific stream type, if it's a specific game he's playing, if it's a specific day, whatever it is, right? Like I don't know what drove that, but it's been something that I've seen. So I want to take a step back. I want to take a step back real quick and point out something you said earlier about streaming to 0 viewers. Right? So I think we can both say that like we kind of just made a haha thing, like nobody should be streaming to 0 viewers. Right? Yeah. Everybody's got a cell phone. You're streaming on a device, right? You're streaming on a device. You're streaming other things like that, right? Like you're streaming on something you should be able to pull up. Even if you're streaming from your console, you should have a smartphone, laptop, computer at some point, right? And you should be able to pull up your own stream and mute it, do whatever, not mute it, but turn it to where you can at least have it set, right? Yeah. I think that's a huge thing to get out of that 0. Like 0 is 0, right? Like people are on 0 because they want to be there, not because nobody's finding them. True. Right? Yeah. And maybe it's an education thing. I don't know. I'll be entirely honest with you. When I started streaming, and I was trying to get to affiliate. You want to know the number of computers I have in my house?
How many?
I have 6 computers in my house.
Oh yeah? You have 6 consistent viewers?
I had 5 consistent viewers, and then I would stream on one. When I was trying to get affiliate, I would consistently have a browser open on every device. Getting three for me, the average viewers wasn't the problem. It was getting the followers, to be honest with you. It was getting 50 followers.
Right. Yeah, that was probably the first hunt more than the average viewership for me as well.
Now, Twitch has gone through and made some adjustments to their algorithms and their what counts as the viewer thing, so that doesn't really work anymore, but
yeah, right.
I think there's some kind of, I don't know how it works, but there's some kind of thing to where it drops in and out. But anyway,
yeah, again, to fight viewbotting, which makes a lot of sense, but.
And Nathan says never stream to 0 ever. And that's exactly what we're saying, Nathan. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. You should at least have one, right? Even if it's you should at least have one, right? Grab your wife, your girlfriend, your kids,
family, friends, anybody, shoot them a message. This is where I'm going to be for the next couple hours. It'll help me out. Just keep a window open, whatever it may be. Come chat with me.
And make sure to educate your lurkers. Like, the biggest thing I see, and people complain about this all the time. I see it all the time, right? I see it all the time where people are like, my chat window says I have like 15 people in my stream, but I've only got 3 viewers. Yeah, because all those people are sitting in chat, but they all have your stream muted, right? Like, that doesn't count, right?
Probably have at least 2 to 3 times of my viewership in chat. I had to guess.
Yeah, and all the bots too, right? I mean, you got tons of bots too, right? Where
do they come from? I think we checked one day, like, my top 10 viewership hours were bots. I didn't. Not anything I've done personally. They just seem to appear.
Yeah, and they do. They happen, and they just kind of sit in there, and they lurk, and they just But you need to educate somebody, especially somebody who's coming to help you. Right? Especially somebody like you're saying, a family member, a friend, something like that that's pulling it up. Hey, don't mute the stream. Just mute the tab or put mute on your windows or something like that, right? That way you have the opportunity to get that viewer, and make it count. Because otherwise that person's wasting their time for not even giving you the view count.
But they think you're helping, and it's like, they think they're helping. Yeah.
So that was the thing, like, streaming to 0 viewers, you kind of touched on it, and I can't understand the amount of people that sit in those categories and in those areas, and they just sit there forever. Yeah. And I'm like,
and they see that and they don't do anything about it. They don't think that it's their fault, They just think that people aren't coming to their channel. They don't understand why, and they're not changing anything to make it happen. And they do that for a month at a time. And then they decide that streaming's not their thing. When, in my opinion, that person never actually gave streaming a legitimate try.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Streaming is not playing games, right? I mean, it involves.
It's part of it, and again, it's not for everybody. Not for everybody, it's part of it. There's plenty of people out there who stream and they don't. They cook, they make music, they just chat, whatever it may be.
They do yoga.
Yeah, or there's what's his name that does the scamming stream.
Oh, yeah.
Fun. Get Boda or whatever his name is. But no, yeah, it's coming on and making content, whatever that content may be. Includes games, great. That's part of your performance, whatever we want to call it. But you got to commit, You can't just expect things to happen. Like everything else in life, you got to work at it. And like you said, you're starting a business.
But
I'm happy to hear you just got an email saying that I've gone live. Cool. It's good to know.
Oh my gosh, that's it. So did we talk about go lives last week?
Yeah, we did talk about how it doesn't get to people as fast as you like. That was part of the starting soon screen.
Yeah. So that's another. I mean, I just want to poke that one again. Because I have gotten to it again where, like, I've just been noticing a lot more, like, bland go live tweets, right? No content behind them, no video, no silliness, no clip, no nothing. It's just literally, hey, I'm live. Come check me out. And they got a link to their Twitch. And I'm like, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing anything. I'm going to go click on it. I click on it. They're not live anymore. I go back and I'm like, when was this posted? And it's like an hour, maybe, right? Usually less than an hour, maybe an hour, and I'm like, well, that didn't last any duration of time, right? Like, what happened? Yeah. And I go look at their VOD and they streamed for like 47 minutes.
Yeah. That's too short, in my opinion.
Like, you have to have, that kind of goes back, and I was kind of going back to the schedule. Like, you have to have a dedicated set time. It's got to be 3 hours. If you're going to tell people you're going live, you have to expect that they're not going to see your tweet for at least an hour, right? There have been times I don't see it for 19 hours, right? Like I don't see it till the next day.
Yeah, I was telling you, I get a lot of yours like when I wake up the next day. Team 5. I'm like, hey, yeah, let's go. Woo!
Like it's a really weird thing, right? Like I just the way the tweet algorithm works now, and the way the
science behind it either.
yeah. So I don't know about that. That just kind of popped in my head, and I was thinking about that one. But
I don't like the ones who like. I don't like when they'll repost like an hour into their stream. Still live. Come check it out. It just seems like, I don't know. I don't mean to make this sound bad, but it seems like you're pleading at that point.
You're grabbing, right? You're grabbing. You're like,
come watch me. Like,
here
why
I
don't
am.
you spend that 3 seconds you spent making that tweet, talking to your chat, saying something else, bring up a topic, ask them how their day is, how their week is, talk about future plans. I don't know, anything. Instead, you're trying to waste time while you're live talking to other people that aren't at your stream. Yeah, I don't know. I get passionate. I get passionately stupid about some of these things.
Okay, so we got one more. We had a second thing that we wanted to talk about too. Asking yourself why you stream. Ooh.
We talked about it a little bit last week, just on a matter of, well, I know I brought it up briefly, but obviously, revenue is always going to be part of it. If you're ignoring that, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to other people. I mean, again, I shouldn't necessarily say that. There are some. What is it? Something Toast. What's his name? He's like a rich guy.
I don't know.
He doesn't want people to sub, which is why he switched to. I think he does Facebook gaming. He streams because it's not about the revenue for him. He's got plenty of money to live off of. He just does this. Kind of fill his day because he enjoys it, and that's great. Not everybody necessarily is in that financial capability to 17 fudge. Not everybody is in the financial space to just hop on here, commit all the time they do without getting something in return or hopes of something in return down the road. But it's also like, for me, I talked about before how this is kind of like we introduce ourselves, kind of who we are, where we're from, why do we stream. And for me, I briefly touched about how, I do this to kind of give purpose to my gaming habits that I already have. And it kind of helps me to, I love that I have a schedule where I'm branching myself out and playing games I wouldn't necessarily play, trying new things. I'm not just sitting here grinding the same game every night after night, just because. No, I think that's when people start to hit that burnout phase, it's something that they need to look back at and see if they're doing it for the right reasons, and if they started somewhere else and they've ended up somewhere different, which is why the burnout's hitting them. Like, are they streaming because they want to do it every night and they want to see new viewers and they want to see growth, and they might not be seeing it at the time, but they're not really thinking about the long term. They just want quick success without putting work in. There's lots of stuff you need to reflect on.
So
when those do start to hit that burnout,
that's a really good point, and I guess I had never really talked or considered that. When you're thinking in the terms or the aspect of like burnout and expectations, right? Or like, why did they even get involved, or why did they want to do it, right? Because what was the idea, right? Because maybe that's a big portion of it. Maybe those that are burning out were just looking for, oh, sweet tea. I was like, what is that? Maybe those who are burning out were just expecting revenue, right? I mean, maybe that's a major factor. Maybe they were looking for a way to offset revenue they were getting from somewhere else. Right. And they're just like, all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, this isn't for me. Right. Like they're just, we've said it before. It's not cheap to get into streaming.
No.
Right. Like even if you have, even computer aside, right? Like computer aside, it's not cheap to get into. You still got to spend a couple $100, right?
I'm nowhere close to breaking even still at this point from investment to return.
Right. Right. And that's okay.
I don't look at it. Yeah, like that doesn't matter to me.
Right.
I mean, I want to eventually, but
I'm totally in agreement with you. Anybody who fills out that affiliate application, who fills out that affiliate application and tells you they do not want to make money streaming is kind of fibbing, right?
No, yeah.
Even if you don't want to make personal revenue, right? Even if I know I have, viewers who donate a majority, everything except for subscriptions goes to charity, right?
Yeah.
That's fine, right? You're still looking for an opportunity to make revenue, even if it's to donate to the charity, right? You're still looking for a way to make money in some aspect, right? Anybody who tells you otherwise, they're fibbing, right? Like, I mean, if you were to ask me directly, why do I stream? Why do I stream? I like hearing the sound of my own. No. I like listening to myself talk. That's my St. Cloud coming out of me. Anyway, like I stream because I have visions of grandeur, right? Like I would love to have the opportunity to one day quit my day job and do this professionally. Like I enjoy doing this. Like I legitimately enjoy it, right?
Yeah. And to go along that, it's not that because, it's like, to me, I would like that because then I would be making a living doing something I love. And that's something that I've always wanted to do. I've never picked a job because of the pay. I've always picked a job because the biggest thing for me is I want to wake up and I don't want to dread going to work. And I've given up jobs that paid well because of that. Because that's just, to me, my mental and physical happiness is so much more important than material things.
Sure.
And as long as I have enough to get by and I'm happy, that's all the hop needs. That's what keeps a smile on my face.
I have always wanted to go into business for myself. All the time I'm like, man, this would be a lot of fun. But then I would look at like, what's it going to take to open this business? What's it going to take to do this? What's the opportunity for failure? And I'm like, it's just a safe bet to just stay at the big corporation that I work at, right? Like, and there's been so many opportunities I've done that. And it's not that I don't like my job. It's just I've always wanted to go into business for myself. And I think this streaming, personally for me, has given me that kind of opportunity because it's not as commercial driven or it's not commerce driven as much as it is people driven. So, you're operating, obviously I'm operating a business. I'm operating a business out of my house instead of needing to have a trade where I need a storefront, where I need, et cetera, space, right? To meet with clients,
overhead
and things.
In that sense is it's actually very cheap.
Yeah. And even from I wasn't even thinking like, yeah, you're right. From an overhead perspective, it's a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
But I was thinking more along the lines of like, right, the operating hours of the business, right? Because a mechanic is open 8 to 6, right? Yep. A barbershop is open, whatever, 10 to 5. Or,
I have no idea when a barber's open.
I don't know. I'm throwing out random
hair-cutting hours, guys.
Yeah, I don't even know. But I'm just kind of getting at, like, when you have commerce or when you're working with residential people like that, like, your business hours are based around the workday, right? Because you're employing individuals, because you're operating around when your clients can come to your store.
Yeah.
When you're streaming, you're more operating in the later. I mean, yes, you have that, but people can connect with you at any time. So it's based around when you can set up your time, right? So now I still have my professional work, right? Like I still have my professional job, and then I can do this. If it ever came to the point to where I could say, hey, I'm currently investing 30 hours a week in content creation. I'm investing 40 hours and revenue has had a positive turn, and I'm making 60% of what I do professionally. If I turned content creation to a 50-hour job
full time,
if I turn content creation 50, 60-hour job, whatever it is, right? Like 50 to 60 hours, if I turn it into a full-time thing like that, could I take the 60% of my revenue, the 60% of revenue for my professional job, can I turn it into 100% of my professional revenue and no longer need professional revenue, right? Like no longer need that. Could I get there one day?
It could be a big risk to take.
It's a huge risk, but if you could take it, like I would love to have the opportunity to take that.
Give it the official go.
I really enjoy networking. I really enjoy connecting with people. I really enjoy content. Like I really enjoy the content creator mentality, attitude, lifestyle. And I'm kind of a people person. I think so. I just like to be kind of connected and moving around and doing things. So
I enjoy the entertainment side. I like, it's silly, but like my days of success if at some point somebody laughs or chuckles or enjoys something I'm doing here on the internet. That's me. That's what I like to do. I like to put smiles on people's faces in any way, shape, or form. Always happy to sacrifice myself for that, if need be. But again, that's what brings me joy. Is seeing others enjoy themselves. Don't get dirty, you weirdos. But yeah, no. It's to be able to do that full time and not have to worry about any other source of income would be an absolute dream. My thing is, I would hope that I never take that for granted if that ever does become a thing, because I feel like sometimes that does happen too with some of these people who do find that success. Something I wanted to touch on too is the burnout period for people more so in your situation where you have a family, you have a wife, there's people who they're in a serious relationship and they take a crack at this streaming thing because they think it's going to better themselves, better their lives, whatever it may be, but their real life is suffering from it. They're straining their relationship, things like that. That's something too that, like, it's dependent again on what that relationship means to you. You obviously always have to prioritize something like that over a stream career. Like if you want to spend the rest of your life with some lovely woman, lovely man, and they mean the world to you, and they're not getting the attention they need or whatever it may be. Again, in a relationship, there's give and take. They have to allow you some time, but you can't be ignoring them on a consistent basis to be doing this.
Sure.
Or if they don't fully support you, that's something you got to work out with yourself. There's lots of questions you need to ask when those times arise. I don't know if you have any personal stories or more opinions on that, being someone who is in a much different situation than me and my stuffed frog.
So it's really interesting. I mean, yes, I had a really hard time when I was first starting out. And like I said, I spent way too many hours either watching streams, trying to learn, trying to design, trying to develop, trying to improve. And it really did put a strain on the amount of time I spent with the family. It was really, really hard. And that was kind of, Jamie and I had to come to a halt and basically say, hey, this is the amount of hours I want to invest. And, the response back, well, this is the amount of hours I want you to invest. Right. Yeah. And it kind of went back and forth. And we've kind of come to an agreement. It was a very, very,
which is good.
I don't think it was a rough patch by any means. Like there was no point in time where it was like, I'm going to leave you if you don't quit. Right. There was nothing like that. Right. It wasn't anything crazy.
You were able to sit down like adults and kind of hash it out.
It definitely had an impact on my kids too, though. I mean, like I would, like right now, again, the reason I stream Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays is because of activities during the week. And, Friday is movie night for us. Saturday and Sunday, I disconnect. Like my Twitter goes off. It's rare that I'll tweet something or something like that, right? Like Twitter goes offline because I spend the weekends with the family, right? So that's 3 days there. And then Monday's usually my recoup day where I'm either working on a bunch of stuff or, I've got recovery from work or I've got, I'll try to cut my YouTube video or something like that for Tuesday to release, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a, that's just the way the schedule fell in place. And I tell myself like, even like when we get on at night, like I don't come into the office. Like once I'm done with work, I leave the office and I'm like, okay, I'm out of the office until everybody goes to bed.
There you go.
Right. And then if I'm not tired, You know, even when Jamie goes to bed, like
Yeah.
I lay down with her. Usually, if I'm not
Oh
streaming,
wow.
even if
Nice.
if I'm not streaming, I'll lay down with her. We'll watch something on TV. You know, we'll kind of just lay there, and then she'll fall asleep, and then I'll kind of make that conscious decision. I'm like,
Nice.
okay, am I tired? No, I'm not tired. We're gonna get up and go to the computer, right? And then I come in here. I do. I come in here. I shut my doors, and usually, like when I'm streaming, honestly, she wears earplugs when I'm streaming, right? Because I'll wake her up.
You got a good one there, man.
Yeah, if I get loud, I'll wake her up. You know, so she wears earplugs while I'm streaming, but on nights I'm not streaming, you got to be careful because she will wake up if I'm, if I get in chat and I get rowdy.
I might recall a few of those.
Yeah. I may or may not have gotten myself in trouble. Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean that's so I have had personal experiences where my attempt to be a content creator has kind of changed or affected how I've had to deal with my family and how I've had to kind of manage that that environment.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, in the very, very beginning, I'm never going to say that my wife was like, you're not going to make it, right? Like there was never that statement, but the amount of faith was the amount of faith was not high, or the level of faith.
It's justified because again,
right? Sure.
We as an individual are a very small, granular percentage of the people live streaming as we speak at this very moment.
Sure.
So to sit here and just say, I'm just going to do this every night and just look forward to the time when I have 7,000 people watching me because it's going to happen. Like, great to be positive, but it's a little naive. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of commitment. It might not happen overnight. It might take you 3 years before you can hit that. But, like, as long as people are aware of that and they think about those things, I think the burnout, it can be avoided. For some people, it has to happen. It's something you can see over time. If there's streamers you watch, you can see it gradually setting in. And, you can say, like, man, I can predict a month from now this guy's not going to be online anymore, whatever it may be. And then you can see those ones, too, where they push through it, where all of a sudden, the content's getting better. They change their schedule around. And when they are online, you can see that they're enjoying what they're doing. There's nothing else looming on their mind, whatever it may be. And that's what you want to see, That's what I want to see in the streamers, at least, is I want to see the ones who want it bad enough. And again, it doesn't mean you don't want it bad enough. Sometimes it might just not be in your cards if you do get hit by the burnout. But the ones who want it bad enough will push through. They'll remember why they're doing it, who they're doing it for, and they'll succeed.
I mean, I'm really in agreement there. I think that you have a level of success based on your ability to control the burnout, right? And like you just said, to kind of power through it, and to take that mentality of I'm not growing yet, and then asking yourself, why am I not growing yet? And even if you are growing, right, just say like, man, this is a lot. I'm falling asleep. I'm not able to manage this. I am physically burnt out. Like it's not even a mental issue. It's just I'm physically burnt out. Then, like you said, adjust. Stream for 2 days, right? Like stream less. Like you just said. Game of Thrones was a 1 day thing. And was that a huge production? Did it have big dragons and all kinds of stuff in it? Yes, right? Obviously. Yeah. But, it's something that you just need to do, and don't let it not be fun, right? As soon as it's not fun for you, the viewers notice that, right? As soon
100%.
As soon as you're not enjoying it, and as soon as you're like, nah, right? The viewers recognize that, right?
Yeah,
and it totally changes. Yeah, it totally changes how you're trying to connect with people. Well, I'm gonna say save it. We're gonna cut it here for the night. We've got an hour and a half. We've got an hour and a half here. I'm going to cut this one for the night, and then we will we'll pick up anything else we got next week.